On day a helpless girl tell me her story that my name is Emily Carter. I was 32 years old when I finally understood that some families do not break you in one big moment. They do it slowly, quietly, over years, with small comments, forgotten birthdays, empty chairs, and the feeling that no matter how hard you try, your name is always spoken last. I grew up in Portland, Oregon, in a house where everyone had a role. My older sister Madison was the golden child. My younger brother Ethan was the genius. And me? I was the quiet one. The ordinary one. The one nobody worried about because, according to my mother, Emily doesn't need much attention. She's used to being on her own. People laughed when she said it. I smiled too, because when you're a child, sometimes smiling is easier than explaining pain. I was 7 the first time I realized I was different in my own home. It was my sister's birthday party. Balloons covered the living room, gifts stacked on the dining table, relatives filling the house with noise and laughter. My mother had spent 2 weeks planning everything. Matching decorations, custom cake, party bags for every guest. 3 weeks later, when my birthday came, my mother ordered pizza, placed a small grocery store cupcake in front of me, and said, "You don't like big attention anyway." I remember staring at that cupcake and wondering how she knew what I liked when she had never asked. As I got older, the pattern never changed. School concerts, sports days, graduation ceremonies. My mother always showed up early for Madison and Ethan. She brought flowers, took pictures, posted about them online. When it came to me, she often arrived late or not at all. Once, during my middle school art exhibition, I stood beside my painting for 2 hours waiting for someone from my family to come. Nobody came. My art teacher stayed with me until closing time because she didn't want me standing there alone. On the drive home, my mother said, "I forgot. Things get busy." She said it so casually that I almost believed forgetting me was normal. At 16, I found something that changed how I saw my mother forever. I was cleaning the garage when I found an old cardboard box marked with her maiden name. Inside were sketchbooks, design plans, and architecture notes. My mother had once wanted to become an architect. Her drawings were incredible, precise, creative, alive. I sat on the garage floor turning page after page, realizing that before marriage, before children, before responsibilities, my mother had dreams of her own. And suddenly, every time she dismissed my love for design, every time she rolled her eyes at my career goals, it made painful sense. She wasn't just looking at me. She was looking at the life she never got to finish. At 18, I left home and moved to Chicago to study architecture. My mother said it was unrealistic. My sister said I was trying too hard to be special. My brother barely looked up from his laptop. Only my father drove me to campus. We sat in silence most of the way, and just before he left, he looked at me and said 6 words I would never forget. "Build something nobody can ignore." Then he hugged me and drove away. College was hard. I worked evenings in a cafe, studied through the night, and took every opportunity one could find. There were days I had $20 left in my account. Days I cried in empty classrooms because I felt invisible. But every semester, every project, every challenge, I kept hearing my father's voice. Build something nobody can ignore. By 28, I had started my own restoration design studio in Boston. I restored old libraries, schools, churches, and forgotten buildings across small American towns. Places other people looked at and saw nothing but damage. I looked deeper. I saw history. I saw potential. I saw stories worth saving. Within a few years, my project started getting attention. Local newspapers, design journals, industry awards. My work was growing, but my family barely asked about it. Then came the summer reunion. My mother hosted it every July at our family home outside Salem. 40 relatives. Long tables. Barbecue smoke. Loud laughter. The same old family roles. My sister arrived to applause. My brother got praised for his career. And me? I wrote my own name on a blank name tag because nobody had prepared one for me. I sat at the edge of the yard with my father while everyone else filled the main tables. That's when a black car pulled into the driveway. A woman stepped out wearing a navy blazer, holding a leather folder. It was Claire Whitman, senior editor from a national architecture magazine. She had been working on a feature story about my projects for months. She walked across the yard, smiled at me, and said, "I hope I'm not interrupting." Before I could answer, my aunt laughed and said, "Oh, that's Emily. She's the one we don't usually talk about." The whole yard laughed softly. Claire didn't. She looked around the yard, then calmly opened her folder and said, "Then I think everyone here needs to hear this." One by one, conversations stopped. Claire placed large photographs on the table. My restored courthouse. My library project. My school renovation. My community center design. Then she looked directly at my mother and said, "Your daughter is one of the most respected restoration architects in the country. She has saved 11 historic buildings across 4 states, and next month, she's appearing on the cover of our national issue." Silence. Not awkward silence. Truth silence. The kind that changes the air. My mother stared at the photographs like she didn't recognize them. My sister put her phone down for the first time all day. My aunt suddenly had nothing funny to say. Then my father stood up. His hand shook slightly from age, but his voice was steady. "I've known for years," he said. And then, from his jacket pocket, he pulled out folded newspaper clippings. Articles about my work. Interviews. Awards. Printed photos. He had been collecting them quietly for almost a decade. My father looked at everyone and said, "You were all too busy looking at labels." I was looking at who she became. I don't remember who spoke next. I only remember the feeling. For the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to be seen. I already was. That night, as I drove home, I realized something important. Not every child needs expensive gifts, perfect birthdays, or constant praise. Sometimes what a child needs most is to feel noticed, to feel equal, to feel like their voice matters. Families become stronger when children are treated with fairness, and when parents remember that one careless word can stay in a child's heart for years. And children, no matter how hurt they feel, should still choose growth over bitterness. Because the strongest people don't spend life proving others wrong. They spend life building something right. This story reminds us that a family is not built on labels, comparisons, or favoritism. It is built on fairness, attention, and respect for every individual. When one child is constantly praised and another is ignored, it does not just create distance, it creates emotional wounds that can last a lifetime. Parents should remember that every child has their own strengths, and comparing them can quietly damage their confidence and self-worth. Even small words and actions matter more than we realize. At the same time, children should also understand that holding on to pain should not stop them from growing. Sometimes the best response to being overlooked is not revenge, but building a life so strong and meaningful that no one can ignore it again. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting, it means choosing peace over bitterness. Question for reflection. If someone in your own family feels invisible or less important, are you truly noticing them, or just assuming they are fine?